So we'd like to talk a bit about what went right and maybe wrong for us.
Well, I mean, we're in a room full of academics. We'll see what actually everybody else
So one of the main things that we think went right was the power of humor. And we use humor to be able to comment on this without necessarily taking a feminist point of view. I mean, I personally describe myself as a feminist, but it is unavoidably a bit of a dirty word in the public space, as much as we want to reclaim it. And so humor lets us sort of sidestep that and skip straight to presenting, this is what happens, this is why it's unacceptable. And also humor lets us connect with the offenders on their individual level. And we have actually had specific cases where someone has seen their own messages posted up and said, you know, now that I think about it, that was inappropriate of me, and sent apologies. A bully definitely understands being made fun of and being harassed in that measure, in that way. And so we reach them on that level. In addition to being able to reach a wider audience, we think, just by taking a humorous tone. Likewise, we show screenshots whenever possible. We have audio messages whenever possible. We don't summarize. We don't try to editorialize. We present the explicit individual instances. And definitely there's value in statistics and aggregate data. But I think a number is easier to brush up away than a screenshot. And so these anecdotes connect with people. And so likewise, as Grace said, we've avoided just using euphemisms like love letters or sexually charged messages. It's not pleasant to talk about all the time, and people have to tag their articles with "not safe for work" when they link to us. But we present it as unedited as we can, and so each one stands by itself and is linked to by itself, while also presenting this is an ongoing menace, this is an ongoing problem that we need to address.
Yeah, and I just wanted to go back on the humor part, is that somebody actually kind of said to me that, you know, the titles that we put on it, or sort of like the sentences before that we put on it, he considers to be kind of like a parenthetical, a kind of like, you know, here's the message, and also here's this part. And so we've actually seen a lot of people in our comments, like, I'm Canadian, we're all mostly Canadian. Does everybody here still know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 is? Yeah. So, I mean, I try and write the jokes as best I can, but usually our commenters take that humor tone and they just run with it, and they're just way funnier than we are in the comments all the time. They just caption the hell out of whatever the images we put up there. So I'm really happy they sort of take that initial framing and they just go with it. And so the next thing I want to talk about is what we think might have gone right, is the shareability, and this really comes about with kind of the exact rise of social media at this time. When our friend Marcus kind of found like the perfect summary domain name for us, fatuglyslutty.com, there was about 2 seconds where I was like, is that too offensive? And I was like, I wanted it to be exactly as offensive as the messages that Ashley was receiving. And so it kind of smacks you in the face. And that's also even true if you link it on Twitter. Even though the URL will be shortened if you paste it to somebody else, it still shows the full fatuglyslutty.com. And I mean, for some people, they think it's just going to be a video game version of Hot or Not, but and they might click anyway, right? And so then they get smacked in the face again when they actually go to the site and they sort of see the winking doors that we have, you know, the kind of the 1950s kitchen theme that we go with that we're really proud of, thanks to Jennifer. And so the domain name itself becomes shocking and shareable in that way. And the reaction is instantaneous, but at the same time, we are a site that is kind of a one-trick pony. We are lolcats. We are those you know, specific tumblers that are coming around right now, right? And so it becomes a thing where somebody can share it as a sort of argumentative point in a discussion because they know exactly what we'll have. I mean, we did a retrospective series of posts, and that was kind of like our few times that we've ever not just been a fail blog. So somebody doesn't have to go to a site and say, okay, today they've got a 2,000-word article. That's not really going to be anything anybody reads. They just go to the site. They know they're going to see screenshots. They know they can use that as an argumentative point. So that's great in terms of its shareability because what you see is what you get. Everybody knows once they've already seen it. But the problem is that this can actually limit us a little bit. It's like sometimes when I see some of the submissions come in, I like to kind of explore the boundaries a little bit. I like to kind of sometimes see what we all socially consider to be acceptable or unacceptable. And so that means posting what I call borderlines occasionally. And so, for example, the one that Ashley first showed us the audio for was this guy. He had this really breathy voice, and he's like, yeah, I just saw that Ashley is in New Mexico, and I just thought it'd be really cool to hear her voice, right? And I mean, it's funny, but for us, it came across a little creepy. Right? It's a little creepy, but that's probably one of our most contentious posts now. Is that because it could be somebody with the best of intentions that he just wanted to make a friend, and this is kind of the most awkward and cute way that he thought to actually do it, right? So if I post a borderline that day, and then somebody shares our link on 10,000 strong Twitter person, right? Our theme gets diluted a little bit because it can look like we're just being whiners. It can look like it's not as strong of an argument if we don't stick to the rape threats, basically. So I mean, it's good to explore, but you can dilute your theme a bit, and so I'm kind of learning, that maybe I just actually want to stick to sort of the strongest points in order to be that sort of piece of evidence, that sort of proof as a site. And also, last one is sort of, we've done a couple of things, including this one, I guess I could probably say, is that I actually have a real passion and fascination for changing minds. And so, I mean, I don't know if everybody here has seen some of the other media we've done. We put together a 1950s educational parody video that was done in black and white theme, sort of nice radio announcer voice, and I was dressed up as Doris, as the circle skirt, little skirt, housemaid, clean the kitchen floor type of thing. You got to follow the 3 rules to play civilized online. Don't have a distracting username, a distracting avatar, and don't distract other players with your voice, right? And that's fun. It was really funny. We're really happy with the response to it. Everybody kind of got the sarcasm. But on some level, it's still preaching to the choir. And so you kind of have to already know ahead of time that harassment is an issue for women to kind of get the video. Otherwise, it just kind of yeah, well, of course they shouldn't say all those things, right? It just looks like a reinforcing in that way. So, I mean, it's fun. It's good. It's just my passion is to try and find ways to convince people. And I've actually heard stories from the audience at the 2 PAX panels that I've been on so far that I'll try and be quick with one. The last one I was on is called Nudes or Get the Fuck Out, Harassment in Online Gaming at PAX East. And I heard a story about somebody who stood in line